Good morning. Welcome to the OK Grognard Show. It is Monday, June 1st, 2020, 9:30 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Running a few minutes behind today. Sorry about that. I was taking care of a couple of logistical things. We're going to be announcing the first winner of 2 weeks where we'll be giving away Antonio Banderas DVDs. That's right. It's The 13th Warrior. If you're not familiar, you should get familiar because it's a great movie. If you're a gamer, it's certainly one that should be on the watch list because, well, it's a lot of fun. So what the heck, right? Anyhow, I want to also mention, and I just posted this up in the OK Grognard Show Facebook group, there is a challenge from Crooked Staff. Are you familiar with Crooked Staff Publishing? If I got that right. Crooked Staff Publishing, yeah. I always wonder what the P's for. I always forget. It's publishing. It's not press. Anywho, Chris does all these wonderful print and paste terrain bits, textures, he calls most of them dungeon textures. He does have some outdoor stuff too. He originally did these really neat dungeon tiles. You could print them out, lay them out. He still does these textures, as he calls them now, to follow suit in the footsteps of Scotty McFarlane, who kind of coined this whole 2.5D dungeon design. There was always a bit of trouble with, as beautiful as they look, with those 3D dungeon tiles that have the walls maybe a bit too high for some people's tastes. Maybe they sit in regular chairs and play around a ping pong table, so they're already up to their chins on the table. And, getting up and down, some people, it's not easy. And one of the responses to the high walls, and, 2 inches, but they're not for everybody, of these dungeon tiles, 3D dungeon tiles, is, and I should say, they're wonderful. The stuff from Dwarven Forge, of course, people are gaga over. The hugely successful Kickstarters, over $1 million. The Kickstarters for Fat Dragon Games, Dragon Lock stuff, the 3D print files that he puts out. And by the way, if you're going to be going by Drive-Thru RPG anyway, swing by Fat Dragon's website over there and or pages on Drive-Thru RPG. Just type in Fat Dragon, although honestly I think if you have the first page open and you're looking at publishers list, he's always one of the top dogs there. He's got those great 3D print dungeon tiles in his Dragon Lock system. They're just wonderful. I've got some myself that it's all tying together now, that a friend of mine passed along to me. In any event, the challenge has been issued from Crooked Staff Publishing, Chris, to download a new print and paste dungeon texture. It's listed under Community Challenge 1, numeral 1. And, print out as many as you want and build a room. It's free. I always say throw a buck, though, because these things are wonderful, and you want them to keep doing these things, too. just 4 pages, but the design on them, if you start doing the print and paste thing, you will find these things very, very useful. And today is the first day of this new challenge for him. It's a first on the first. So it is. And he's the first. Anyway, you just print these things out. He's got a video on Drive-Thru RPG that's linked. Crooked Staff Publishing. Print and paste, Dungeon Textures, Community Challenge 1. And it's great. You print out as many of these as you want. The challenge allows you to print 1 page from any one of his other print and paste selections, which you'll find all free. So if you need to enhance it with some sort of this room that you wind up building with some sort of texture from another one of his many offerings, then there is that possibility. Although, frankly, this is a myriad of things in this one single download. There's some variety here, so there's plenty of room. Walls, floors, doors. Got some special... You'll see. Go check it out. Anyway, that's part of the news today so far. That's top of the show, as we say. And what else we got going on here? What else? Well, I was going to talk about, because it's the beginning of the month, and at the end of the month, on June 29th, which happens to be a Monday, it has been dubbed, I say that like it wasn't me who did it, Harryhausen Day. Ray Harryhausen, of course, the fantastic animator of so many great movies, so many great special effects for movies. He passed, of course, in 2013, but he was born June 29th, 1920, which means this would have been his 100th birthday. He only made it to 92. Not a bad life, really. You can check out more information on him on his wiki page, of course. An American artist, designer, visual effects creator, writer, and producer who created stop-motion model animation known as Dynamation. If you've ever seen his sword-fighting skeletons or any of the wonderful creatures in the movies that he created, you might be familiar with 1949's Mighty Joe Young, or some of his later work, in which he won Academy Awards. First color film, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad from 1958, Jason and the Argonauts, 1963, which both had the Skeleton Warriors. Clash of the Titans, 1981, was his last film that he worked on. He retired at that point. I guess he did not expect to live another 32 years. Or maybe he just wanted to enjoy his life. He did come out of retirement in 2002 to do a special film about his career in innovations and special effects. Pretty amazing stuff. Personally, I have a little bit of a list that I like to think of as some of his best work. Obviously, all of it has good stuff in it. I'll look that up on my... I think we had an article sometime back Grimwald Creature Collection. Yeah, there's that. RPG Medium Monday. Back in the day. One of these has to include Grimwald Gazetteer. Interesting. That didn't come out very good. I wonder if I could do a little search. Sure, of course I can. Pass at 92. Yeah, when he passed. Did a quick article about his passing. Linked to a bigger article. Amazing career. Well, just to put a finer point on it, without digging up the exact post I made back in time, I'm just going to pull up his IMDb page and go down quickly the movies I think are the ones to watch. Of course, Clash of the Titans. Not my favorite Harryhausen movie, but it is so much of his special effects and love put into it. You've got to see it. Going backwards, 77, Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. 73, The Golden Voyage of Sinbad. The Valley of Gwangi. That's his Western. Dinosaurs in the Old West. After 66, 1 million BC. First met on the moon in 64, but 63, Jason and the Argonauts. And Mysterious Island from 61. Three Worlds of Gulliver is not a bad film, although I don't put it on my list because The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad from 1958 is definitely on there. Strange World of Planet X, and I'm going back beyond my list now. That was from 58, 57, 20 Million Miles to Earth. 56, Earth versus the Flying Saucers. 55, It Came from Beneath the Sea. It's a classic story on that involving Ray Bradbury, which you should look up on the internet. But in essence, the producer of that movie, who called Harryhausen in, had this idea about a creature that he had apparently accidentally lifted from a Ray Bradbury story. And when the two of them had met, they were talking about things that they loved, monsters, dinosaurs, and Ray Harryhausen recounted his working on that movie and gave him an idea what the story was about, and Bradbury was like, that's my story. Why is there a movie about my story that I wasn't involved with? Anyway, it got sorted, and the two of them became lifelong friends. It Came from Beneath the Sea, 1955. In 53, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Mighty Joe Young was the first 1949 big movie he really worked on. Tulips Shall Grow is listed on his IMDb page. It is his own little short. But Mighty Joe Young, first full-fledged film. And fittingly, too, because he'd been thinking about this for so many years, because he was first inspired by King Kong. And the whole impetus for Ray Harryhausen's career comes to us because of King Kong, and what a blessing that is. Essentially from 42 if you count Tulips, but really 49 to 81. A 32-year career, and it could have gone on. It could have been twice as long if he had kept working, but of course, you You work 30 plus years, you want to retire, you want to enjoy your life, you want fruits of your labor, right? And he sure earned them. He sure earned them. So, if I was to pick a handful of must-see movies, well, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, definitely. Mysterious Island, Jason and the Argonauts. 1,000,000 years BC, Valley of Gwangi, Golden Voyage of Sinbad, Sinbad the Eye of the Tiger, and Clash of the Titans. That's 8. If I was to cut one out, I don't know, do we have to have 7? Can we have 8? If I were to cut one, even though it's a vaunted classic because of the inclusion of Raquel Welch in the cast, 1,000,000 years BC would probably be the one I would nix from that. Not a great story. 5.7 rating on IMDb. Also, not as much animation as a lot of the other movies, so it's hard to include it in there as being as big a deal as the rest of them. So let's say that again. Start it all off with Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Mysterious Island, Jason and the Argonauts, Valley of Gwangi, Golden Voyage of Sinbad, Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger, Clash of the Titans. Basically, swords and sorcery / swords and sandals with one western thrown in, and of course Mysterious Island, which is really a science fantasy story, but such great animation in all 7 of those. Definitely worth watching. We'll be celebrating his life and his works. June 29th is a Monday. I'll probably kick off my own celebration. I'll probably catch as many of those 7 films as I can. I think I have all of them on DVD. I'll probably start kicking it off on Friday. Try to watch 1 or 2 a day. If I manage at least 2 on 3 of the days. Let's see, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Then I can watch all 7 over the course of that weekend. It'll be a nice little personal film festival here at the OK Grognard Show Studios. He said generously. A lot of fun, Matt. It'll be a lot of fun watching those again. Enjoying all those special effects one more time. The thing for you, of course, is to do whatever you want. Just, it's a remembrance, you know? So, if at some point on that Monday or on the weekend leading up to it, you just think about all that Ray did with his life and his work, then you'll be honoring him as somebody who gave those with an imagination a lot of great fodder. And at the same time, if you're a gamer, boy, being able to imagine a lot of those creatures, those monsters, coming to life like he brought them to life is such a treat for us gamers. Anyway, let's move on with a little something else here. We're about 20 minutes into the episode today. I usually try to keep them to a half hour or less, particularly on Monday when I'm not doing some creating during the show per se. You know, I'm not putting a map together or brainstorming some encounters or painting something. By the way, that painting, I have not done anything since Saturday. I got the first coat on the other 8 of the catapults. One of them does have 3 coats. That looks like it'll be enough. There was a little bit of touch-up after the 3, but that means I've got 8 more that all need a second and then a third coat. If I'm going to get that done before Thursday, I should probably knock some of that out today. So that's a thing. I need to, weekly news, spend some time with Jonathan Bingham's map. I did a sort of a flow chart on this because it is naturally a tricky little business, being that it zips around in a number of directions. Let me see if I can find it now. Splunging Meeks is what we've been calling it. Let's have a look at... Well, I got a small version. Is this the revised version? I think I've got a revised version that I can share briefly. Yeah, let's bring that up. Splunging Meeks. So I've taken the different hallways, as you can see. They all have to go in certain directions, right? There's those retrourse spines, like a pitcher plant or a Venus flytrap, that point inward. So anything coming in to this thing can't just readily climb back out. And these have to all flow in a given direction for it to function as a large creature slash dungeon, creature complex, I think I've been calling it. And I figured out the directional flow of all these hallways. I got to figure out the best way to represent them so that they don't interrupt, pardon the pun, the flow of the map. So we'll get back to that later this week. That's something I'll be working on. I'm also still continuing to work on the OS zine that is the old school zine, Volume 1, Issue 1, Old School Medieval Fantasy Games periodical. It'll be a $3 offering. I think we're talking like 16 digest pages. And they've got a few aspects to it that I'm already working on, an adventure, some miscellaneous items and creatures to add into the adventure. This is a mock-up of the first cover. There'll be a little more to it. Got to put a little inset in there teasing the things that are inside. I'm thinking over here on the right, probably. Maybe down here I'll have something on the left. There's room there as well. I'd rather not block any part of the stairway, I don't think, because I think for the visual flow of this, I like that this had griffins on it. This is a public domain image. It's out there. JDB is... where'd it go? Where did it go? I should have the illustration credits up here. John D. Batten, originally published in English Fairy Tales. J. Jacobs, 1895, New York. Grosset and Dunlop. This is, of course, in public domain, as I said. But, boy, how perfect for something I want to do. It evokes the old school feel. It's inviting as it is stairs up to a door. It's not a dungeon, although bottom left, notice there's that sewer opening or whatever it is. I think some of the stones down there are sort of suggestive of skulls as well. Look at that little eyeballs sticking up down there. That's pretty cool, right? And given my long-term project, the Griffin and Grotto's old school role-playing system the Forever Project, I'm not interested in making a fantasy heartbreaker. I'm not really interested in making a retro clone, but definitely because of the way I was brought into the game in '74, coming along out of having been a wargamer chainmail player at a very very young age, I should stress, and D&D getting published and me jumping on board and adding that to the gaming mix. But then, as I was playing with the three little booklets over time, a couple years in, they plunked down with the monster manual. Hey, look at this, first edition. We're coming out with a first edition. Here's one book. We'll give you another one next year, and then 2 years from now we'll give you the biggie. So you don't get all the rules right away, right? They were kind of a progression. And one of the ways I express that progression for me is in the symbology of, I don't have it visually available here. Maybe nope, it's not in there either. Anywho, there's a symbol I like to use, which is original plus advanced, because that's how we did it. We had the original game, and as the components, if you will, the three core books for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons came out, we would add them in piecemeal. Of course, it was easy enough to add in the monsters. There were a few things about the stat blocks, as they later became known, for each monster that were vestigial in our estimation. We didn't need them because they weren't explained, for one. And on top of that, we had all we needed. As long as we had to hit dice and we knew what kind of damage they did on attacks, and we knew what their armor class was, if they had any special abilities, a stone gaze or whatever else. And of course, we could extrapolate some of what was going on based off of what the creature was in the three little booklets compared to what it became in the monster manual. So if there were additional things, which were explained in the beginning of the monster manual, all of the various parts of the portions of the stat blocks were explained, so we got to know what this new format was going to be. We got to understand why they added this bit in or that bit in. But because we could see some of the examples brought forward from the original game, when we looked at stat blocks of new creatures, it was easy enough to grok them all and add them into our game. So, classic, original plus advanced. That classic title always throws me off because it's kind of a catch-all that some people use to include original D&D plus what was the starter set, which some people call basic, and then of course there's another basic, and then there's basic expert and the other stuff, and eventually, classic would include the rules cyclopedia, since that's a culmination of most of the earlier stuff. And indeed, there are some transitional things that would lead you to believe that that was a simpler form. Everybody who played Advanced just thought of everything else that wasn't the original that was coming out as basic D&D. And it shouldn't all be lumped together, and it shouldn't all be added in with original as classic, because there are enough differences, just as Advanced is not original D&D either. Just a sticking point, because there's always some points of confusion when I sit down to play one or another of these versions at a game table, and halfway through somebody says, oh, well, I use this from Expert. Oh, well, you said it was classic. I thought you were in this original. That's not in original. Oh, yeah, but I use it. So it's almost like occasionally having to deal with someone's house rules, because they'll say, oh, I play first edition Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, yeah, no, I lifted that from second edition. All this kind of stuff, fair game, certainly. It works great at your own table, and it works great if you invite someone to play with you and you explain that you're using these extra things. Then there's no surprises. Well, when you make mention of these things on the fly after they become pertinent, then it can be tricky. Not that you should know all the rules when you sit down and play. Cosmo Joe just going live on Facebook in Phoenix Con 6 minutes ago. Wonder what he's up to. If you're looking for something to do when COVID-19 passes or coronavirus, we get beyond the dangers that gatherings can bring, Cosmo Joe coming up with Phoenix Con. I've got some dice I purchased last week from him that I think the tracking told me should be coming here today. I'll be showing those off later this week. I've got a bunch of 12-siders, the cool DMing ones with weather and some of the other things. I'll show those to everybody. And I've got numerous 6-siders for fireballs, lightning bolts. I think I got some of the what are they called? 4-siders for magic missiles. So they numbered 2 to 5. That's kind of fun, right? Studio 66. If you're looking to do something dice-wise, then that's a thing to do. What do we got? Let me have a look here. Magic missile dice, yeah. I got the teal ones. Teal. I wanted them to stand out. I got 5 of them. I want them to stand out from my other dice in the dice bag so I can pluck them out. And teal, because I use the Kuplau jumbo dice, teal is not a color that this would. They use a dark blue for their blue. So too, death magic dice, that's the other ones. Those are the 6-siders with a skull on the one side. 5 dice. I got 2 sets. Yep. So I got 10 of those. I've got 10 of the electric lightning bolts D6s. I got 10 of the fireball D6s. And I got the GM D12 set, which I think is 4. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank here. Let me pull up the page. Studio 6d6studio.com. Number 6, letter D, number 6, studio.com. And I went straight to the GM's D12 set. There's a mood die with the various emoji faces on it. Classic emoji faces like the smiley face, and I love the fact that he made that D12 yellow because the classic original smiley face was a yellow two dots and a curve and a circle around it, right? And that's a D12. And then there's the trap one, which has some very cool little stick figure drawings. One with a scythe or a pendulum trap cutting off a guy's head. There's one with a spear coming out of a hole in a wall and going straight through the middle of a guy. They're all pretty cool. There's the treasure one, which has some coins and a gem and a staff and a bunch of others. And the weather D12. These are 4 D12s. The trap one's red. The treasure one's black. The light blue, kind of sky blue one is for weather. And like I said, yellow for the mood one. So these are great. I look forward to getting those later today in the mail. Well, I'll tell you what, we are actually beyond that point now. This is one of my longer Monday shows, to be honest, but I have yet to mention who won the Antonio Banderas 13th Warrior DVD, and that person is my friend Sarah. How nice. Sarah actually was one of the first. She goes by Artanis8242 on Twitch, in case you have run into her. She may well have been one of the first people to join me in those early days during a stream. Well, I'll tell you what. She doesn't have a DVD player. I'm giving it to her anyway. She's earned it. She won it. And I know that she's got other people that have DVD players, or you can pop it into the drive on a laptop or a computer and watch it that way. So obviously she has multiple ways to watch it. And I know she'll enjoy it. Such a great movie, such a classic. She is mainly, I mainly know her as a board gamer, but she does do role-playing games, and she does actually DM. And what I was getting at earlier when I said something about some of those Dragon Lock 3D dungeon tiles, she had a friend who printed a whole bunch of the cavern tiles, and then I don't know, got out of gaming, or he just went left or something on that and went a different way. But I've got a couple of small boxes, let's say. If you take the lids from a couple of bank boxes, you could line up a whole bunch of these 3D dungeon tiles, mostly cavern pieces, which is good because they're tougher to emulate from other things, and I can use them for something, I'm sure. They need to be painted up. Most have been primed. It may just be there were too much work for the person that did them, but they passed them on to Sarah. Sarah passed them on to me. Very kind. It's nice that she won. It does not play a part in it. It's nice that she won the 13th Warrior DVD here, week 9 of the OK Grognard Show giveaway. We'll have another 13th Warrior DVD for next week. I think we're going to stick with that. We'll talk about doing some other things, but those will be coming up. So week 10, we've got another 13th Warrior DVD. We did 6 weeks of dice. We did 2 weeks of patches. We'll do 2 weeks of these DVDs. And then we'll move on to some other things, which I have, including some Hildebrandt posters, Coca-Cola series from back in the 80s, early 80s, late 70s. Those are fantastic. Yeah, I've got some other things that I'm digging up around here. I won't talk too much about them. There is one really great Emperor's Choice miniature. It's a Cyclops ogre, sort of big, 4-inch tall thing that looks a lot like one of the creatures from a Ray Harryhausen movie. So I think that's what I'm going to give away on the 29th. If you want to be in the running for that, be sure to chime in on the chat stream the week of the 21st through the 27th of June, inclusive. You've got to be a follower of the Twitch channel to be eligible. But if you are eligible, then you just chime in on the chat stream at that point, and you are automatically on the list for the drawing for the giveaway. So it's that simple. No purchase necessary. And that's coming up in a few weeks. Let's see. So that was week 9. This is week 10. Week 11, week 12, week 13. Oh, that number. Are we superstitious? If we were, then in March we would have been superstitious about Friday the 13th, and we weren't, I don't think, were we? Anywho, we've done the news. We've done the giveaway. We're well past our 30, so all it is for me to say is thank you if you're following the Twitch channel. Speak up in the stream chat if you're a follower. Get in on the drawings if you're catching this on YouTube. Thank you very much. Please become a subscriber. And give us a thumbs up or thumbs down. Feedback's good, no matter whether it's up or down. It's all good for us. Have a great week. Since it's Monday, I'll say that. And while you're having a great week, be sure and come back and visit us here at 9:30 a.m., 7 days a week. Tomorrow, cartography and world building. Campaign discussion on Wednesday, including much about my Grimwald setting. Thursday, crafting and painting. We'll see about those catapults by then. Building virtual tabletop adventures on Friday. Saturday, maybe in flux. I got a video and review. More on that as we get closer. Rules retrospective on Sunday. We'll continue with that David M. Prada document that we've been exploring regarding first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Initiative and Combat. And then back round the full circle next Monday, weekly news and giveaway, and another Antonio Banderas 13th Warrior DVD. Thanks again to everybody who's made us a part of your routine during the week. It certainly has helped me as we've given me something constructive to do as we've been in lockdown, and helps me keep track of the days of the week, which is ultimately the goal. That's me, as you can see in that beautiful little drawing there. You know, I don't say it often enough, but let me just say that I think that is one of the best purchases I ever made. It's such a beautiful thing. The let me bring up a quick bring up a folder. because I got involved in this Kickstarter, and I know this is dragging out the... There was a monster stock art Kickstarter. It's the first one I did, and I got involved with it, and at a higher level, if you chipped in a little more, you could get something customized for you. So I saw a chance to do this, and great artist Malcolm McClinton was doing this gelatinous cube, and I said, put me in it. That was my custom request. And I also asked that he put a griffin, the logo for Griffin and Grottos, on the shield inside the gelatinous cube. So there I am, just my foot sticking out. I sent a picture of my face. I had a beard going then. And, well, I've got one now, but sometimes I have them, sometimes I don't. So there I am, an armored man, my sword and my body and my shield all sucked into the gelatinous cube. And when I started the OK Grognard show, I thought, well, you know what? This is perfect. This is the logo. I hadn't planned on it originally. I thought this would be a great front cover, and it may still be for a GMing tome. Because you feel that way sometimes, like you're stuck in a gelatinous cube when you're trying to run a game, right? Every now and then. And then I started doing this, and I just loved it. I needed to mimic the color, or one of the colors, one of the shades of green, and so I took a little sample out of the cube, and this olive drab popped up, and I thought, well, that's going to look great if I use a stencil font, and that stencil font gives it an old school military feel, which also works great with the whole concept of wargaming grognards from the past making their way into the future, dealing with today, dealing with new games and new gamers. Okay, Grognard. It's one way to say it, but I like saying it's the OK Grognard Show. And I'm the OK Grognard, and this has been Monday, June 1st, 2020. I thank you all. Have a great day.